Hi, Aishwarya. Thank you so much for meeting with us today. Are you able to tell us a little bit about yourself and the organization that you're a part of?
Sure. So, hi, I'm Aishwarya. I'm one of the editors in chiefs and also the managing editor of the review board of USJ, which stands for the Undergraduate Science Journal. We're the only science journal on campus, and we focus on publishing research papers submitted by students. So, if you're in a lab and you have a paper, feel free to submit it to USJ. And basically, we operate kind of like a real scientific journal. All the papers are submitted to us. We review them for scientific accuracy. We select the best, I don't know, about 10 to 12 papers that we get. And then we work with the authors to incorporate a lot of our feedback and suggestions on improving the scientific reasoning and structure of their article first. And so once like that part is like scientifically sound, um, we pass on your article to the editorial board, and so they'll work with you for improving like the grammar and overall structure of your article. And then last, it's passed on to the review board, and they'll let you know if your figures need to be updated or like have any changes. And then they're responsible for making like the final print layout of our journal. And so yeah, like we operate like a real journal. We have three boards and we pass it, and we do like a full peer review process for all articles submitted.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So my first question for you today is, what does being a member of USJ typically look like, and what are some of the tasks and responsibilities that members have to carry out?
Okay. So each member is put onto one of the three boards: review, editorial, or layout. I've been on review board since freshman year, so I can speak most about that. But as a general review board member, you're responsible for reading about 3 to 4 submitted papers, and you have to look at them really closely. So you have to go through like each section of the paper and see if they're like meeting all the requirements. Like in the introduction section, you have to see if they give a proper background of the topic they're trying to cover, focusing on that cone structure of starting broad and ending really narrow on a specific hypothesis and gap in the literature. And then and so then we make sure that all of that is done. There's sufficient references, what you're writing matches what's in the references, and like really working with you on that level of detail to make sure your paper is the best it can be. At the same time, we're evaluating it to try to find the best 10 to 12 articles submitted that are ready for publication. And so that's what the work of the review board is. If you go into leadership on the review board, you'll have a more involved role in the process. Our assistant managing editors, which is a position that you can apply for, but it's typically for second year members of USJ that have already been a general member first. But in that position, you basically are able to look at all these evaluation forms submitted by the other reviewers and compile all that feedback in a comprehensive letter to the authors, which is what we send out and allows the authors to um, like incorporate all those edits and send it back to us. So now, like the first thing we focus is on making sure that the science in your paper is good to go. And then second, it'll be passed on to a member of the editorial board. And I don't know exactly how they do this, but I think each editor is assigned one or two papers, and they go through it and they first do like large scale edits. And then they also focus on smaller grammatical edits and making sure all your references are formatted correctly. And then if you're a member of the layout board, you work with the authors on improving the figures in case like quality or like visibility needs to be improved. And then you're also responsible for putting together that final layout of the journal that looks really nice and cute and published.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So my next question for you is, what skills have you gained from USJ?
Yeah, I've learned so much from USJ through all the different positions that I've had. So I've been part of the general review board. I've been an assistant managing editor, so I've done the whole letter thing, and now I'm a managing editor and editor in chief. My role hasn't really started, so I'm still eager to see what this new the year come. Sorry, I'm still eager to see what this year brings. But as a general member, I think I've learned a lot about like the scientific peer review process. A lot of times when you're in a lab, you just write your manuscript, submit it, and you don't know what goes on behind the scenes. And so this is your opportunity to be that person and learn what it means to review. So I've been able to kind of like see how like scientific papers should be structured and ensure that all the reasoning flows, experiments are designed well. And this is like a similar framework you can use for evaluating papers within your field and also outside your field. The scientific method is very similar across different fields. And so you get a very in-depth understanding of that and like making sure that it's communicated well on paper. And when you're evaluating other people's articles, you're able to see the mistakes that they're making and try to like make sure that your own writing doesn't have those. So I've also seen my own scientific writing improve. And then I think when you're an assistant managing editor, you have a slightly different challenge because you're like incorporating the evaluations of multiple different people. And sometimes someone's like, this article is amazing, no edits needed. And someone else is like, oh, there's so many things wrong with this. And it's kind of your job to figure out what perspective do you weigh more. And sometimes you have to write letters for articles outside your like field, which can be really tricky. So I think you develop a lot of critical thinking skills and being able to figure out which of these evaluations is like stuff that I agree with that I want to put in the letter and what isn't like the best feedback necessarily. And so that's a whole different skill set, being able to like look at so many point of views and synthesize them into something comprehensive and helpful. And then I think when you're on like really high leadership, like a managing editor or editor in chief, you learn a lot of organizational skills on like how to run this journal efficiently.
Great. So what are some of the benefits of an author submitting their work to USJ?
Yeah, so I think USJ is a great stepping stone to like being published in an actual peer-reviewed journal. So because we only publish the work of undergraduates, we're a lot more welcoming. You don't need to have like a super fancy research project in order to publish with us. Like we accept summer research that's just been done for a year, and we really focus on undergrad. Like we only focus on undergraduate research. So you don't have competition from like grad students or anyone like that. And so I think it's a really cool process for authors to be able to see like to work with that peer review process because the feedback is incredibly helpful. We give you guys so much attention to detail, and we really want you to be able to present the best work possible. And so being able to look at your writing from a different perspective and being able to incorporate that feedback and working with a team of so many people that want to make your work the best it can be and like get it published is really valuable. And I think it's a great opportunity for you to improve your own scientific writing and get published. So it's a win-win.
Great. Thank you so much. So my next question for you is there an application process for USJ? And if so, when are applications due and what does that process kind of look like?
Yeah, so we do have an application for the organization. Apps are, I think this quarter, they're going to be due around week 3 or week 4. Usually, if you're interested in an assistant managing editor position, your app will be due 1 week earlier. We are moving forward the application process a little bit, so we have more time to work with our members. So I think traditionally it's been due in November. This time it's probably going to be mid-October. So the application process is specific for each board. We have general questions like, why do you want to be on USJ? What skills are you going to contribute? But it's up to each board to recruit their own members. We often give you an excerpt. So if you're on the review board, you have to critique that for like scientific validity. If you're applying to the editorial board, you have to critique it for grammar. If you're on layout, you have to explain how you'd improve the layout. And that's a really important process of our application because we're able to see your skills on the journal in action. So I would definitely like emphasize that on your application. And there's no interviews, it's all based on your written app. But if you're on the review board, we are going to start training a little bit early in fall quarter. So make sure you block that time out if you're interested in USJ.
All right. And is there anything else you'd like to add, Aishwarya?
Yeah, I guess one thing that makes USJ unique is that you're actually required to take a class for it. So in winter quarter, you have to take Honors 101B, which is a seminar that meets 5 times a quarter from 5 to 7 p.m. on Wednesdays. And so that's just something to be aware of when you're part of USJ, no matter what board you're on, because each board has different active periods. Like review board is really active in winter quarter, editorials like active late winter, early spring, and layout is active spring quarter. like you're going to have that, but you're also going to have to be taking the class at winter, no matter what.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Aishwarya, for meeting with us today. We really appreciate it.